Want red beans and rice that taste real nice? Ask Corey, he got the story. Want to make lasagna better than your mama? Ask Corey, he got the story. Want blackened catfish to be your main dish? Ask Corey, he got the story. Want to make gumbo without all the mumbo jumbo? Ask Corey, he got the story. Want a king cake that ain't no fake? Ask Corey, he got the story. Want to make a poor boy that'll bring your mouth joy? Ask Corey, he got the story. Corey Rocan, Food 411.
Welcome back to Food 411. So as it's getting a little bit cooler outside, I start to think of things like beef stew. There's nothing better than beef stew on a cold day. And I don't know what part of the country you're in, but most parts of the country are starting to get a little bit chilly outside. And everybody's looking for a nice hearty beef stew. Something that tastes just wonderful. It's not that hard to make. I hope you enjoy this episode. It's going to be scrumptious. So what I've done so far is I took a 3-pound chuck roast. It's the perfect meat for this. It's got just enough fat, not too much fat. You don't want fat all over the place. It's a pretty lean piece of meat. Not tons of fat in there. And I just cut it in 1-inch cubes. So as you see, I've got a 3-pound seat of 1-inch cubes. The first thing we want to do, take that off the heat a little bit, we want to salt and pepper this. We're going to toss it. You know, people think that the reason that that this salt that I'm using right now is to season the food, and you know, I might not like a lot of salt, so I'm not going to do this. This is a step you actually have to do. The salt is going to dry the outside of the meat, help it get a crust on it when you sear it, and it's going to impart the flavor because it's going to put what they call a fond on the bottom of the pot that we're going to deglaze with some nice red wine that we're going to get here in a minute. And if you don't drink, that's fine. This is going to cook off. There's no alcohol residue, but it's going to impart that deep flavor that you're looking for. So you probably need to do it. If you do a wine, you need to do either a Cab or a Bordeaux. You need something full-bodied. And if you don't use a full-bodied like a Cab or a Bordeaux, you're going to get this little bit of an off taste. So do that. So I took about a tablespoon and a half, 2 tablespoons of pure olive oil. You can use vegetable oil if you wish. Just a neutral oil. Do not use extra virgin olive oil. We've said that before in other episodes, but make sure you do not do that because it will. And we heard that beeping just now. That's the oven at 300 degrees. Our beef stew is going to be made in the oven and not on the stove. Alright, so depending on how big your dish is, you want something big and heavy. This is a Dutch oven. It's like 8 quart. If you have something smaller, it's fine, but you're going to probably do your meat in 3 batches instead of 2. You don't want to overcrowd this. You want to give this enough room to brown all 4 sides. And if you start to overcrowd it, it's too much meat in there. It doesn't brown. You don't get the fond. You don't get the whole thing. So I'm just going to brown this 3 pounds of meat. And I'm going to put it in a pan and let it sit.
As you see, this isn't too crowded. It shrunk up a little bit, so I've put up a couple new pieces in here. But if you see, this is kind of what I'm looking. I'm trying to get this crust on here. And if you look closely, you'll see the fond down there. It's like a little crust that forms on the bottom of the pot. That's what you're really hunting after. So you want to get all 4 sides to kind of look like this. This is what you're looking at. 5 minutes, 7 minutes, doesn't matter. You see my heat is up high. Mine goes from low to 10, and I've got it at 8. You want it nice and hot. Leave it there just enough to get some crust on it. It's kind of tricky to keep checking them. We're pulling out the last couple ones. I turned my heat down to medium. I've got a nice layer of fond on the bottom. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So as I pull these out, and I want to add that I added a little bit of more oil between the first and second batch, just to have a little bit of liquid down there. It's turning out just fine. See, these things look beautiful. Got to work fast though, because this will start to burn. So I'm putting 2 medium onions in here. It's roughly 2 cups of finely chopped onions. This is going to mix with the fond. It's not going to pull it out of the pot yet, but it's going to mix with the loose scraps and put the flavor on the onions. Good stuff. Let me show you. You see, it's just kind of brown on there. That's all flavor sitting on those onions. Exactly what you're looking for. We're just going to cook down these onions for a couple of minutes. Going to release some of the moisture. When you're cooking, all the water, all that does is dilute everything. The onions have water, the garlic has water. We're trying to cook some of that out and get to the flavor of the deal. And if you know from other episodes, we don't cook with water around here. So in this case, we're going to use the cab and 2 cups of chicken stock. We're making beef stew. Why is he using chicken stock? Well, with all this beef and the red wine, with the beef stock, it would just be overpowering. We're going to make a hearty beef stew that's very flavorful, but trust me on the chicken stock. If you're using beef stock, switch over to the chicken stock. It'll be better. And if you are salt conscious, now you can cut back and get the no salt or reduced salt chicken stock. We needed the salt for the meat to help it brown. So now if you're salt conscious, now you can scale back. Because you are going to taste some of this flavor from the fond and from the meat. You're going to have some of that salt in there. So now's your time to cut back. Oh, garlic. So as you know, we always throw garlic to the end of the party. We're only going to cook this about 30 seconds. There's still a lot of residual heat. This garlic will brown or blacken pretty quickly, and once it does, it gets very bitter. We just want to get the flavor on it, loosen it up just a little bit. As you see, I still got the fond on here, but look at how they're darkening up. That's all that flavor sitting on there, and that's what you want. You got the flavor on the meat, now you have the flavor on the vegetables. And if you say that beef stew needs potatoes and carrots and such, you're right, but not yet. People put them in early and tend to overcook them. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to put this in an oven at 300 degrees. For my meats like this, you see when we cook a roast or tougher breeds of meat, I don't cook them on the stove. The stove is just hitting the heat from the bottom. We're going to put it in the oven at 300 degrees so the heat can cover the whole thing, and it tends to cook it more evenly. So now we're going to throw in the 1 cup of this beautiful cab. Now here's where the fond's going to come up. This stuff's going to start bubbling. I turned up the heat just a tad to 6. It's going to start bubbling, and what that does is it loosens up all that fond. This is where the flavor comes from. If you miss this step, or omit it, or don't do it to this
measure, the beef stew will not be beef stew. It'll be okay, but not great. I can feel all the fond loosening up, and the bottom of my pot is smooth again. It's wonderful. Alright, just got that cooked down just a little bit. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of flour. And what we're going to try to do, every beef stew that's thick and hearty needs to be nice and thick. So, I'm going to mix this all together, constantly stirring. And I'm going to cook this for about 3 or 4 minutes, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to cook the flour taste out. That's all that I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to darken it up. I'm not trying to do any of that. So let me stir this for about 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm going to give you guys a look. So I got the flour in there, and look just how nice that, if you could smell this, it's just incredible. The darkness is coming from that cab, and the aroma is just wonderful. I'm just cooking off the flour taste, I'm cooking off the alcohol, and I'm just left with all the nuances of that wine. This is absolutely wonderful. Just about a minute more, and then we'll be ready to add the thyme, the bay leaves, and the chicken broth. Now that we've done this for a couple of minutes, we're going to add about 1.5 teaspoons of thyme, 2 bay leaves, and 2 cups of the chicken broth of your choice. I recommend chicken broth in this case, not chicken stock. What we want to do, boy, that's looking beautiful. This is the base to your chicken, to your beef stew. This is where you're going to get all your flavor from. What we want to do is we want to simmer this. We want to give it like a head start for the oven. So we're going to get this simmering. Then we're going to add the meat back. We just got this boiling. I'll put this meat back in. And I don't know if you can see this, but there's some juice in the bottom of this pan that I'm going to include. So rather than just put one piece at a time, I'm going to dump this in here. We're trying to capture every piece of flavor we can do. We're done with flavor. There's no more salt, no more pepper, no more secret ingredients, no more anything. We've got our base, we've got the flavor, we're just going to build on it now. Now what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the flavor from the onions, the garlic, the bay leaves, the thyme, the wine, the broth, all the fond. We're trying to get all these flavors to marry together. You know, it's like at a club. We got the liquor going, got everybody going, everybody's happy, time to party. And we're trying to work this meat down. We have to get the interior of this meat to 160 degrees for about an hour before it starts to break down. So now, this is where we're going to do this. My oven's at 300 degrees. It's starting to boil now. I'm going to cover this, stick it in the oven for 1 hour. So I'm going to set my timer for 1 hour. So when I meet you back here in 1 hour, I'm going to show you the rest. It's been an hour. Exactly 1 hour. Oh my gosh. This looks incredible. What we've done is we have about 6 small boiling potatoes that we cut into 1-inch cubes and 4 medium-sized carrots cut as such, about 1/2 inch, and that's it. We're going to put these back in the oven and let them cook for about an hour. Really, we're just going to cook them until the potatoes are done. 300 degrees still. Should be one hour. I'm going to make sure they're all covered. If you're not going to watch the end of the video, fast forward to the end because there's one more step at the very end. So, back in the oven she goes. Oh, hello! Here we are, another hour later. This looks quite delectable. Very rich, full of texture. Potatoes are done, carrots are done, but not too done. It's just the right hearty beef stew. We made some rice. Now for the last step, you take about this much fresh parsley, I don't know, 3 tablespoons or so. It's just to add a nice little garnish, little extra. If you cook this down, it'll just fall apart. You'll never see it. This is more for just the color and the beauty, give it a little texture. Now, normally, you'll take about a half a cup or so, or even a cup of petite green beans, and you throw, green peas, and you throw it in now. The guests that we have this evening wish to not have them, so we're not going to put them today. But if you do the green peas, you do it now. If you try to cook this with the green peas, they turn to mush, and this whole thing will be a mess. So it's only in the last 5 minutes, right before you serve, 5 minutes before you serve. If I were to do the green peas right now, I'd put them in right now, stir them, and while everything's being prepared, then I would serve them. So this is done. So give me just a minute to get everything prepared, and we will make a bowl. See how it tastes. Alright, so here we have the bowl of the beef stew. Look how beautiful that looks. So rich, full of texture, beauty, darkness. Now we're going to have a taste test. We have our guest here. His name is Taylor Hull. Alright, have a bite.
Hello.
Let us know what it tastes like.
Oh, thank God.
We'll call that a wrap.
Yeah, you keep it.